Hello there. This is Jeff Osnes, the Principal Evangelist over here at PhoneBurner. And one of the questions I get asked quite often is how can I add PhoneBurner to my CRM? I already have a CRM and I just want to be able to power dial through my contacts. And I don't want to have to necessarily import all of my data over to PhoneBurner so that me and my organization can select those records and begin a dial session, right? But the answer to that question really depends. The CRM that you're using, is that a CRM that you've purchased from a system like, let's say for example, Zoho, where you didn't build the CRM, you don't own the code, and so you can't really make lots of changes to that CRM. In some cases, we've already created an app that you can install in your CRM so that your organization can launch a dial session directly from that CRM, allowing your organization to power through their calls at a rate up to 60 to 80 calls an hour, right? Let's help these people get more done in less time. If you have a system like Salesforce, we have an app there. But it's not possible for PhoneBurner to build an integration for every CRM. One, not every CRM gives us the ability through their API to add this sort of functionality to their system as an outsider. And two, we just don't have the ability to create an integration everywhere. We can't be everything to everyone. So here at PhoneBurner, we created an open API that will allow you to add a begin dial session button to your CRM. Now, whether or not you can add a begin dial session button to your CRM is really going to depend on a couple things. One, do you own the code? Are you able to work with your development team to update your code and allow that begin dial session button to be added to the system? Or does the CRM that you use have the ability to allow you to add that? Now, if you have the ability to add or update the code on your CRM, then I want to show you how simple it can be. So first off, let's jump over to the integration section in PhoneBurner, and let's take a look at the API documentation. So I'm going to go to API docs, and we're going to go to the dial session section. In here, you'll see the details about how you can create a new dial session using our API. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward, right? Now, because I've talked to a lot of people over the years who've tried to do this, sometimes they look at this and they're like, okay, well, what does all this mean? How do I help my development team really understand what we're supposed to do here, right? We can send them the API documentation and they can take a look at it and they can try to figure it out, but let's help them out. And so I created this super basic wireframe CRM to kind of talk you through some of the key or basic elements of launching a dial session from your CRM. The first thing you're going to need to do is authenticate each user. We're not going to allow a power dialing session through our system without it being assigned or connected to a PhoneBurner account. If we go back here to the PhoneBurner documentation, we need a bearer token. And that can either be done through OAuth 2.0 or in this case, I'm going to use a personal access token. You could have people generate a personal access token in their PhoneBurner account, and they can copy and paste that into your system to save it. So I'm going to take my access token, and I'm going to add it here to my, again, wireframe CRM. Now the next thing might be some custom data. This is user-specific information from your system. You might want to send a user ID or call-specific information to PhoneBurner so that we can then, in turn, return that information back to you after each call. So let's say this user is, and I want to include some call list specific details. So let's send hot prospects over. Now, of course, you don't have a CRM without contacts, and so you need to have some sort of mechanism to allow your users to be able to select records from your CRM. So in this case, I can select individually, or I can select a whole page by checking the top box. Really just depends on me. And here I've got, again, just basic contact information. I've got an example of some contacts with custom fields, some contacts without custom fields, but you get the picture. We got a CRM with data in it, and now we need to send that information to PhoneBurner. So here I've got my launch dial session button, which is going to invoke the dial session part of the API. It's going to send all this information to PhoneBurner. Now in my case, because I'm trying to kind of blow this up so that you can see what's happening, when we click this button, rather than taking me straight into a dial session, I'm going to walk you through what's actually happening. So we need to build a payload and send that payload to PhoneBurner. Going back here to our dial session information, right? We've got to create a dial session and we need to send a payload. So let's go back to our example here. Here's the payload. I've got my contact information, right? All of the contact information is being sent over based off the contacts I selected. In this case, I've got custom field information for one of the records, but no custom field information for the others because those records didn't have custom fields. And if I go down here, you'll see the custom data information. So I sent the user information, Jeff Osnes, the call list information, hot prospects, any sort of custom data that needs to be included back to me after each call. I need to send that to PhoneBurner. And then I'm also going to include what are called callbacks. So as the calls are happening on the PhoneBurner side, PhoneBurner can communicate back to you, your CRM. In this case, we're taking advantage of 3 specific webhooks. We've got the call done, which happens after the call's been completed. The rep clicks on a disposition. We send the contact information and the call information back to your system. We got contact displayed. This will notify your system the moment a contact pops up on the screen in PhoneBurner. So if needed, you can make some updates on your system, noting that this contact has now been displayed. And then the final option here is the call begin. The moment we start calling a contact, we can notify you that the call has started. Now it's important to note that the contact displayed will be triggered one time, the moment the contact pops up on the screen. The call begin can actually be triggered multiple times if a contact has multiple phone numbers. Every time we begin a call to that contact, we're going to hit your call begin API endpoint. Call done can also be triggered multiple times per contact, because if you call a contact at multiple phone numbers and you disposition each of those calls, we're going to send that information to your system, to whatever URL you put here. Now below that, you're going to see the API response. What did PhoneBurner send back to me in order to initiate this dial session? So first off, this was a successful request, and PhoneBurner is going to provide a redirect URL. This is the URL you need to redirect the customer to so that they can actually get into the dial session, right? I didn't do that in this particular case because I wanted to show you what actually happened here. But in your situation, you would actually take them from the contact view like this, and all they would see is this dial session, right? They didn't see all that stuff behind the scenes. They were just taken to the dial session window. That is the redirect URL here. And down here I've got 3 buttons: call begin, call done, and contact displayed, which will take us to some examples of each of these callbacks. But before we do that, let's actually go back up to the top and let's launch our dial session. This is where you would redirect somebody to so they can actually start their dial session. They can set things up. Let's get into a dial session and get connected. So once this contact popped up on the screen, that was when the contact was displayed. When I called that contact, that's when the contact was called. And then when I click on one of these dispositions, that's when the call done payload is triggered. So let's click on they are interested. Let's go back to the other page. Let's scroll down to the bottom and let's take a look at first the call begin. So we click on that. We'll see an example of the payload that was sent when the call began. So we'll see all of the contact information here. So everything that's specific to the contact, all of the different phone numbers related to that contact, all this information is getting sent back to you so that you can do whatever it is that you may want to do with that information. Now, I do want to point out that you're going to see owner information. Regardless of you sending any custom data over to PhoneBurner or not, we are going to tell you who owned that contact at the moment that call was made. We're also going to include custom fields. So if there's custom fields, all that custom field information is going to be sent back here. And then let's go down here. You'll see the custom data array. You'll see Jeff Osnes, hot prospect. So this is the custom information that you sent to us that you want to get back. You can send as much information in there as you want, and you're going to be getting that back throughout that entire dial session. So here you can see lots of information is sent back to you when that call begins so that you can potentially make adjustments on your system based off of the call actually beginning. Let's close that, and let's open up the call done. This is an example of what we send to you when the call is dispositioned. So I clicked on the interested disposition, and you can see the status that was sent back to my webhook is interested. I can see the duration of the call. I can see the start and end time of the call. I've got call recording turned on, and so I've got these links to the call recording. And then, of course, all of the contact information. So I can scroll down through here and I see all of the details specific to that contact. The notes, custom fields, the owner of the contact, the agent that made this call. Again, everything that we just saw in the call begin is in the call done, including that custom data array. So we've got all of that information that's specific to the user that initiated the dial session from my CRM. I control that, and PhoneBurner just returns it to me. And with this information, you can ensure that the contact is updated in your CRM, the call activities are logged in your CRM appropriately. That way your CRM can always be up to date based off of what happened in the dial session. Anyway, I hope this helps you and your organization better understand how simple it could be to add the PhoneBurner Power Dialer system directly to your CRM. There's no reason why your customers can't be taking advantage of power dialing with the #1 power dialer in the industry with the highest live answer rates. Let's unlock their potential and add the PhoneBurner Power Dialer directly to your CRM. Thanks for taking a moment to watch this video, and happy dialing.